Hi everybody, welcome to the latest edition of the Guitar Practice Room. I'm Ron Parker, and today I'm going to be talking about some different picking techniques that can be used. I'm going to start with some, in this video, just some very basic stuff, and then I'm hoping to kind of add to it as time goes on. So I'm going to start by how I practice these and some of the different strokes and how I hold my pick and different arm techniques, and then later on I'll cover some other stuff. Okay, so actually when I'm doing my picking practice, which I try to do every single day, I decouple my left hand from my right hand. So that means I'm not doing any scales, or I'm not doing any chords or anything with my left hand. I want to isolate my right hand and focus entirely and totally on what it is doing. So when I'm doing my picking practice, I usually just put my finger all the way across the 4th, 7th, and 12th frets, so it still gives, a little bit of tonality there. But I don't focus on what my left hand is doing. I'm trying to remove it from the equation so I can focus on my right. Okay, with that said, the next thing I wanted to focus on was the picking stroke, because mostly what I'm going to be focusing on here is speed techniques. And so I find, and over the years have tried a variety of different picking techniques to try to improve speed and sound and all that stuff. And I found that leaving my right hand and the wrist entirely relaxed and loose is the key to maintaining stability, a nice clean stroke, even strokes across the entire picking spectrum as you're picking across different strings. I used to curl my fingers up. I've tried that. I didn't find that it made me feel a little out of control. I wasn't really able to pick the way I wanted to. I know some folks do it that way. That's fine. I'm just saying the way I like to do it. It's the loose-handed thing. Eddie Van Halen's the one I saw do it, and it took me a long time to figure out how he did it, but it's the same type of stroke that I think he uses, that pendulum type of stroke. Another type of stroke is that stiff arm one. So in that type of stroke, the entire wrist is actually rigid. It's not relaxed at all, and the stroke comes from the forearm, like it's a vibrating type of stroke. So it's this versus that relaxed. You can do the same speed actually with both. It's more got to do with feel and that type of thing. So sometimes when I'm picking on a single string, I'll use that stiff arm thing. Sometimes when I'm picking scales, I'll use the stiff arm thing. So that's a couple of different techniques there. Something I used to do that I see a lot of folks do that I don't personally do anymore is they anchor. Some folks like to anchor their fingers on the instrument itself when they're doing their picking. They feel like it keeps them in control, and if that works for folks, that's cool. I used to do that. I've got away from that, and I'm very glad I did, because one of the things that I find very freeing is being able to control where, keeping the hand in a relatively stable position, but moving with my arm where I want to pick, which string I want to be picking. So that's something that actually has to be practiced, and I find it much more freeing to be able to not be pinned to the instrument with my right hand, and to actually be free to pick at will, if you will, across the instrument. So for what we're going to be doing today, or looking at today, keep that wrist relaxed, and as you're doing your practice, if you're noticing that wrist is getting stiff, or you're tightening the muscles up, actually those contracted muscles reduce your speed. If you're not doing a forearm smash thing, you want to keep them nice and relaxed. It just takes a little practice to get that. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to some basic strokes. There are 8 strokes that I typically practice. There's the downstroke, the upstroke, alternate picking, inside picking, outside picking, economy picking, sweep picking, and then there's just your basic kind of acoustic type of stroke thing, which actually I don't rehearse, but I probably should. Downstroke, the first one, that's when you're just picking straight toward the floor. It's pretty straightforward. Oh, I forgot to cover. I use an extremely thick pick for the speed picking stuff. This one's a 1.14 Dunlop. I call them surfboards. These things do not bend at all, and I feel it gives me control over the instrument. When I'm stroking, that's where I want to be. I don't like a floppy pick. Some folks do. If that's what you like, that's cool. I don't. So the downstroke, again, is just picking toward the floor. So I'm going to put my left hand across for get some chimes going here, and I'm just going to pick toward the floor, so just down. So I'm using I'm kind of exaggerating the motion here with my wrist, but the wrist is actually relaxed. And notice the arm movement is what's moving that up and down the instrument. Okay. Next stroke is the upstroke. Same kind of thing, except I'm stroking toward my head, upwards. So that's the upstroke. So I'm again moving my arm. The next one's alternate picking. That's when you use upstrokes and downstrokes, one after the other, downstroke, upstroke, downstroke, upstroke, or vice versa, upstroke, downstroke, upstroke, downstroke. This is a good one to practice using the single string thing, because it gets you to focus on that arm movement. It forces you to move pretty rapidly and stay in control of your wrist. I'm really exaggerating this motion here, but you get the idea. That alternate picking thing. Okay. The next one I like to work on is actually outside picking. Outside picking is where you're using the alternate stroke, but you're picking the outside of the strings. So I'm looking at the B string and the E string here. I'd pick down on this one, and then up on the E. So I'm on the outside of these two, outside of these two, outside of these two as I work down here. So let's give it a go. And on the way back, I'm doing up, down, up, down, up, down. Okay, so that's all on the outside of each of the two strings, like that, alternating. The next one is inside picking. Inside is where I start between the strings instead of on the outside of the strings that I'm picking. I don't like inside picking, although I do use it, but we'll give it a go here. So that's the inside. I'm starting on the inside of the two strings each time. That's inside picking. Okay. The next one is economy picking. Economy is when you have alternating strokes like this, but you'll reach a point that you want to either do, so you're going down, up, and you want to go down, down, up, like that, or you're going up, down, up, down, down. So because you're already moving in a direction, it makes more sense to keep moving in that direction. Okay, that's what economy picking actually is driving at. So I run into this when I'm doing string skipping exercises, doing alternate picking. So I'm going to pedal on the G as I do my alternate picking. When I get back to the G and I want to go up to the B and the E strings, that's when I hit the economy, because I'll go from G to B with two downstrokes or two upstrokes, depending on where I am in the picking pattern. So you see that? So I went G, B, and then back up with the upstroke to hit the G for the pedal, and then went down to E again. That's economy picking. The next type of picking is sweep picking. Sweep picking is typically used with arpeggios. It's like the stroke kind of pick where you are sounding a chord, but with an arpeggio you want those notes to be very individualized. You don't want them ringing out per se. So with sweep picking, it's like the stroke, but it's much more rigid and much more controlled, and you can do it across all the strings, or you can do it in sweep patterns across the strings. I'll cover some of that later. But sweep picking looks kind of like this. And you can do it like in patterns of 3, patterns of 4. Like that, okay? So that's sweep picking. Then you got your basic stroke stuff, right? Which is great to practice, actually, because one of the things I've don't play acoustic too much, but when I do, you want to be able to pick out those notes while you're pedaling in the context of the stroke. Okay, so we've covered decoupling the right hand from the left hand when you're doing your pick practice. Keep that wrist nice and relaxed. You may want to use the pendulum fingers. You may want to pin them to your guitar. Some folks do that. I think that's best to leave them unpinned, pendulum, and then to make sure you're using your arm to position that pick over the string that you want to pick. Do downstrokes, upstrokes, alternate picking, inside picking, outside picking, sweep picking, and stroke picking. And you may also want to practice your stiff arm if you want to get your Eddie Van Halen on. So that's it for today, and hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day.